You feel it, don't you? That gnawing sensation in your chest when she doesn't text back immediately. That rush of relief when she finally gives you attention. That desperate need for her validation that keeps you checking your phone every 5 minutes. You're not imagining things, you're being played. And today, you're about to discover the cold, calculated Machiavellian tactics that women use to turn your emotional neediness into their weapon of control. Here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to tell you. Your neediness isn't just unattractive, it's painting a massive target on your back. Every time you double text, every time you seek her approval, every time you rearrange your life for a crumb of her attention, you're handing her the keys to your emotional kingdom. And trust me, she knows exactly what to do with that power. You've probably felt it before. That sinking feeling when you realize you've given too much, shown too much need, exposed too much vulnerability. You watch as she pulls away, becomes cold, starts playing games that leave you confused and desperate. You blame yourself thinking you did something wrong, when in reality you've simply fallen into a trap as old as human psychology itself. Niccolò Machiavelli understood power dynamics better than anyone. He wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." In the modern dating world, this translates to a harsh reality. The moment you show emotional dependency, you've already lost the game. Women aren't reading your mind, they're reading your desperation, and they're using it against you. But here's what's going to change today. You're about to understand the exact psychological mechanisms at play. You're going to see through the smoke and mirrors. You're going to learn how your neediness triggers specific Machiavellian responses in women. And most importantly, you're going to discover how to flip the script entirely. You need to understand something fundamental about female psychology. Women are hardwired to test for emotional strength. It's not personal, it's evolutionary. Throughout history, women needed partners who could provide stability, protection, and resources. Today, that translates into psychological tests that probe your emotional fortitude. And when you fail these tests by showing neediness, you trigger ancient response patterns that work against you. Think about your last interaction with her. Remember how you hung on her every word, how you analyzed her texts for hidden meanings, how you felt that spike of anxiety when she took longer than usual to respond. Every single one of these reactions was visible to her, not through your words, but through your behavior patterns. Women possess an almost supernatural ability to detect male neediness, and once detected, the game changes entirely. You've experienced this, haven't you? One day she's all over you, texting constantly, showing affection, making you feel like you're the center of her universe. Then suddenly, without warning, she goes cold. The texts become shorter, less frequent, the warmth disappears. You panic, wondering what you did wrong, trying desperately to get back to that good place. This isn't random, it's calculated. Psychologists call it intermittent reinforcement, and it's the same principle that makes gambling addictive. By alternating between warmth and coldness, between attention and withdrawal, she creates an emotional roller coaster that keeps you hooked. Your brain becomes addicted to those highs, making you chase them desperately through the lows. Here's what's really happening in your brain. When she gives you attention after a period of withdrawal, your dopamine levels spike higher than if she'd been consistently warm. You become chemically addicted to her validation. She's literally hacking your neurochemistry, turning you into an emotional junkie who needs his fix. You think you're in a relationship, but you're actually in a constant state of evaluation. Every interaction is a test, and your neediness is failing you every single time. Let me show you exactly how this works. She mentions another guy, maybe an ex, maybe a co-worker, maybe just someone who hit on her. You feel that surge of jealousy, that need to prove you're better. You start overcompensating, giving more attention, trying harder. What you don't realize is that this was never about the other guy. It was about seeing how you'd react, and your needy response just told her everything she needed to know about your emotional weakness. Or maybe she suddenly becomes busy. Work is crazy, she's tired, she needs space. You panic, you send supportive texts, offer to help, try to be understanding while secretly dying inside. Again, you failed the test. A man with options, a man who isn't needy, would simply say, "Cool, hit me up when you're free," and go live his life. But you orbit around her like a satellite, waiting for permission to exist in her space again. Here's where it gets truly Machiavellian. The moment she senses your neediness reaching a peak, when you're most vulnerable, most desperate for her validation, that's when she withdraws completely. It's not coincidence, it's strategy. You see, scarcity creates value in the human mind. When something becomes less available, we want it more. She understands this intuitively. By making herself scarce at the exact moment you need her most, she increases her value in your mind while simultaneously demonstrating her power over your emotional state. You start doing things you swore you'd never do, checking her social media obsessively, driving by places you might accidentally run into her, crafting the perfect text that might get her to respond, each action driven by that gnawing neediness, each action making you less attractive, less powerful, more controllable. This is where things get really dark. Through systematic emotional conditioning, she trains you like a laboratory rat. Positive reinforcement when you behave how she wants, punishment through withdrawal when you don't. Over time, you learn to anticipate her needs, to modify your behavior to avoid her disapproval. You stop hanging out with friends she doesn't like. You change your opinions to match hers. You abandon hobbies that don't include her, all because you're terrified of losing that emotional fix she provides. You've become a puppet, and she's pulling the strings with surgical precision, the most insidious part. You think it's love. You tell yourself you're being a good partner, that you're compromising, that this is what relationships are about. But compromise requires two people meeting in the middle. What you're experiencing is capitulation, complete surrender of your emotional autonomy. Sometimes she'll show vulnerability, she'll cry, share her problems, seem to need you. Your protective instincts kick in. Finally, you think, she needs me. This is your chance to prove your worth, to be the man she can count on. But watch carefully what happens next. After you've rushed to her rescue, after you've proven you'll drop everything for her, she rebounds quickly, too quickly. The vulnerability disappears, replaced by that familiar distance. You've just shown her, once again, how easily manipulated you are by her emotional states. Real vulnerability in a relationship is reciprocal and builds over time. What you're experiencing is weaponized vulnerability, emotions deployed strategically to test your boundaries and increase your investment while she remains essentially unchanged. You've reached the point where your entire emotional ecosystem revolves around her. Your mood depends on her texts. Your self-worth fluctuates with her attention. Your decisions are filtered through the lens of her potential approval or disapproval. You've become predictable, controllable, and ultimately worthless in her eyes. This is the critical juncture where one of two things happens, and neither is good for you. She realizes she has complete control and decides to keep you as an emotional servant. You become the guy she calls when she needs validation, the backup plan when other options fall through, the emotional tampon who listens to her problems while she dates other men. You see this happening, but you can't stop it. The addiction is too strong. You tell yourself that if you just hang in there, if you just prove your loyalty a little longer, she'll finally see your worth. But here's the truth. She already sees your worth, and it's precisely zero. A man who has so little self-respect that he'll accept crumbs isn't a man worth respecting, or she simply gets bored. See, the Machiavellian game is only fun when there's some resistance. When you're completely broken, when you've shown that you have no boundaries, no self-respect, no independent identity, the game loses its appeal. She moves on to a new target, leaving you devastated and confused. You'll torture yourself trying to understand what went wrong. You gave her everything, sacrificed everything, and it still wasn't enough. But that's exactly why she left. Your neediness didn't just make you unattractive, it made you boring. There was no challenge left, no game to play, no power to extract because you'd already given it all away freely. Let's dissect what really happened here. Your neediness triggered a specific set of responses rooted in evolutionary psychology and social conditioning. Women are attracted to strength, independence, and emotional stability. When you displayed the opposite, weakness, dependence, and emotional chaos, you triggered rejection responses at a primal level. But it goes deeper than mere attraction. Your neediness actually enabled and encouraged manipulative behavior. You see, Even women who wouldn't normally engage in Machiavellian tactics find themselves pulled into these patterns when faced with extreme male neediness. Your desperation creates a power vacuum that begs to be filled. Think about it from her perspective. Here's a man who reorganizes his entire life around her whims, who panics at the slightest sign of disapproval, who has no boundaries, no self-respect, no independent identity. What is she supposed to do with that? Respect it? Impossible. The only options are to exploit it or abandon it. Now you understand the game. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Machiavelli himself provides the answer. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. It's time to flip the script. You want to know the secret that changes everything. It's not about becoming cold or cruel. It's about becoming scarce. Emotional scarcity is the nuclear weapon in interpersonal dynamics. When you're the one who needs less, you automatically become the one with more power. This doesn't mean becoming a robot. It means developing genuine emotional independence. It means having a life so full, so engaging, so purposeful that her presence becomes a nice addition rather than a necessity. When she senses that you could walk away at any moment and be perfectly fine, everything changes. Start pulling back. Not dramatically, not obviously, but consistently. Take longer to respond to texts. Be genuinely busy with your own life. When she creates drama, don't engage. When she withdraws attention, don't chase. Simply mirror her energy or give slightly less. You'll notice something fascinating happen. The same woman who was pulling away suddenly starts moving closer. The games diminish. The respect increases. Why? Because you've changed the fundamental dynamic. You're no longer the needy pursuer, but the prize to be pursued. Nassim Taleb talks about anti-fragility, systems that get stronger under stress rather than breaking. You need to become emotionally anti-fragile. Every time she tests you, every time she plays games, you don't just survive. You become stronger, more independent, more attractive. This means developing multiple sources of validation: career success, physical fitness, creative pursuits, strong friendships, meaningful goals. When your self-worth comes from multiple sources, no single person can destroy it by withdrawing their approval. Here's what really terrifies a woman playing Machiavellian games. A man who genuinely has options, not fake bravado, not pretend confidence, but real, tangible options. When you're talking to other women, pursuing your goals, living your life fully, you broadcast a completely different energy. You stop asking, how can I make her like me? And start asking, is she adding value to my life? You stop wondering, what did I do wrong? And start thinking, is this behavior acceptable to me? The frame shifts entirely, and with it, the entire power dynamic. Machiavelli understood something fundamental. Power isn't taken, it's given. Every time you showed neediness, you gave away power. Every time you chased her validation, you handed her another piece of your emotional sovereignty. The only way to win this game is to stop playing by her rules. But here's the deeper truth. When you develop genuine emotional independence, you often find that the women engaging in these manipulative tactics naturally fall away. They're attracted to neediness, like predators to wounded prey. When you're no longer wounded, you're no longer interesting to them. Instead, you start attracting women who are emotionally healthy, who don't need to play games, who can engage in genuine reciprocal relationships. The entire quality of your romantic life transforms when you transform your relationship with yourself. So now you know. You've seen behind the curtain. You understand how your neediness has been weaponized against you. You recognize the patterns, the games, the Machiavellian tactics that have kept you trapped in cycles of emotional dependency. But knowledge without action is worthless. You stand at a crossroads. You can continue down the path of neediness, continuing to hand over your power to every woman who shows you a moment of attention. Or you can choose the harder path, the path of emotional independence, self-respect, and genuine personal power. Here's what I want you to understand. This isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about becoming who you really are when you're not filtered through the lens of desperate need for female validation. It's about discovering your authentic self, the version of you that exists independently of her approval or disapproval, The man you become when you release neediness isn't cold or distant. He's confident and present. He doesn't play games because he doesn't need to. He doesn't chase because he knows his worth. He doesn't panic when she pulls away because his happiness doesn't depend on her proximity. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a process of daily choices. Every time you feel that needy impulse, that desperate need for her validation, you have a choice. Feed the neediness and remain trapped, or choose independence and grow stronger. Start today. Start with small acts of emotional independence. Don't immediately respond to her text. Make plans that don't include her. Pursue a goal that has nothing to do with impressing women. Each small act builds your emotional strength, reduces your neediness, and shifts the power dynamic in your favor. Remember what Machiavelli taught. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps and a lion to frighten wolves. You've learned to recognize the traps. Now it's time to become the lion. Have you experienced these manipulation tactics? Have you felt the sting of realizing your neediness was being used against you? Comment below and share your story. Like this video if it opened your eyes to dynamics you felt but couldn't articulate. Subscribe to this channel because we're just getting started on revealing the hidden psychology of modern relationships. And don't miss our previous videos. They contain equally powerful insights that will transform how you navigate the complex world of female psychology. The game has changed. The only question is, are you ready to play by the new rules?